Hey everyone, Joe here with the Idaho Prepper channel, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing bugging out of an urban environment during SHTF. So for those of you who do live inside of an urban environment and maybe you failed to prepare, but you are concerned about the instability that's taking place inside of your country and outside of your country, and how that might lead to a scenario where you and your family might have to evacuate in a moment's notice. I'm going to be discussing with you the different supplies and strategies that I implemented into my family's emergency plan when we lived in an urban environment. So stay tuned. This should be a good one. All right, so like I said in the beginning of the video, this is for those of you who live in an urban environment and maybe you failed to prepare or you're new to preparedness and you're just trying to figure out what a good starting point is in terms of putting together an exit strategy or an evacuation strategy for you and your family. So as I mentioned, I used to live in an urban environment. I actually lived in Northern California for a long period of my life. And when I lived there, my entire survival strategy was pretty much focused on evacuating. So I didn't have any intention of bugging in when I lived there. I just knew that if things went south, that area was just going to become very dangerous and totally unsustainable very quickly. So my plan the entire time I lived there was basically just focused on evacuating as quickly and as safely as I could. So I went ahead and I put together a list. This is basically 5 things that you guys can be doing right now if you live in an urban environment to kind of get this evacuation plan in motion. So the very first thing that I strongly suggest you do, that you should do, is establish a bug out location. Now, a bug out location is basically a location that you know is going to be far away from any civil unrest that's going to be taking place. It's going to be, but it's not going to be too far away that you can't access it, within a couple days. So it's just definitely something to think about whenever you establish this location. Just make sure that it's safe, but it's not so far away that it's going to take you days and endless resources to access it. So your bug out location is really going to also depend solely on your budget, I would say. So for those of you who have no budget, you don't have, or I should say you don't have any money.
I'm poor right now.
Yeah, you are.
You can still put together a bug out location. Now you can probably do this in a national park, or if you know somebody who has private land and they might be willing to let you bug out to it if things were to go south, you can do it that way. But when I lived there, I actually just established a location within the national forest that was closest to me. It was about an hour and a half drive, but I knew it was a safe place. So if things went south, I was going to be safe there. And I had a cache there that had a bunch of supplies and essential goods that I would need to sustain me for an extended period of time. So for those of you who don't have the money to buy a piece of land or something, I'd say just try to establish a nice, safe bug out location within your national forest, or with somebody in your family or one of your friends that has some private land that'd be willing to let you go to it. Now, for those of you who have a huge budget and you can afford anything, then I would just say, buy a big piece of land somewhere, get your own private plane that you can fly out to, have it secured and fully stocked full of goods. But for those of us in the medium area, that's kind of where I am and where I was when I was living there. I would say, get online, start searching the different rural properties that are available. Now, I know a lot of people that I've talked to feel like they may have be priced out of the market, but that's not true. I still go on these different websites and I still shop for these different rural properties, and I can still find them for 30 grand, 50 grand for a couple acres in a rural area. Now, I actually did a video not too long ago on the things you want to look for and look out for if you are going to buy rural land. I'll make sure to leave a link to that video. But yeah, I would say definitely that's the first thing that you should establish when putting together an evacuation plan is know where you're going. So ideally, the best situation, if you have the money, is buy a piece of land that's secure and then put something there like a storage container that has all of the supplies you need. Make sure that you can put satellite cameras around that property so that you can maintain it when you're not there, and keep an eye on it. Make sure that people aren't going in and taking your stuff. And maybe you can build a little cabin there, or you can put one of those tough sheds, some type of cabin that you can kind of just bring in there and has, basically all of the supplies that you would need to sustain in that area for an extended period of time. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do when securing a bug out location is getting familiar with the environment that your bug out location is in. So make sure to educate yourself on the different wild edibles that are available in your area. Get to know the different hunting and fishing opportunities that are in that area, and definitely make sure to locate alternative water sources that are in your area, because the last thing you want to do is buy a piece of land way out in the desert because it's cheap, and you end up staying there longer than you had anticipated, and you end up using up all of the resources or food preps that you have on hand, and you're reliant on the environment that you're in, but that environment is completely barren and void of alternative resources. So make sure that your bug out location is in an area that can provide you with alternative resources that will sustain you beyond your preparedness plan. All right, so now that we've established our bug out location and it is fully stocked with all of the supplies and provisions that we would need to sustain ourselves and our family for an extended period of time, the next thing we're going to want to focus in on is our exit strategy or our evacuation plan. So this is by far the most important part of this emergency plan. So it's going to be comprised of a lot of different moving parts, but the first thing you want to do is establish alternative routes from point A to your bug out location. So the best way to do this, I found, is just going on Google Earth. Find where your bug out location is, make sure that you have the coordinates to that bug out location, and then start establishing different alternative routes to that location. Now, these routes are usually going to be made up of as back roads and different fire trails. So I would say definitely get on Google Earth. You'll be surprised on how many back roads and fire trails there are in your area. But definitely that's probably the first thing you want to do is establish alternative routes to your bug out location. All right, so moving on to one of the more essential parts of this evacuation plan, and that is communication. So make sure that you and everybody in your family or on your team is familiar with the different alternative forms of communication that you're all going to be operating on. So, for instance, the cell phone is going to be the number one go-to form of communicating. But if for some reason the cell phone towers are down, or you're in an area that just doesn't have good cell service, then you're going to have to rely on an alternative means of communicating. And for most people, that means having a handheld radio. So this is a Baofeng GMRS radio. And the reason I like these radios is because they're simple to charge. You can just charge them with a cable. You don't need the little box or anything that these sit in. And they're also really easy to use. So I can hand these to my younger family members, and they can use these pretty easily. The other big benefit to having a GMRS radio is it allows you to get into a frequency that is most likely not going to be crowded in an SHTF situation like a lot of the more common CB radio frequencies. So you do need a license to operate with the GMRS, but there's no testing required. You just go to FCC, you fill out a form, you pay the $35, and they issue a license that you and your whole family can operate on. But these are just great radios. They got a light, they have the NOAA weather function on here, and they have like an SOS strobe feature on here. So they're a really good emergency survival radio. And they also communicate really long distance when you have these antennas. Plus, they're also repeater ready. So you can actually, if you have a repeater in your area, you can link to that repeater with this radio, which will just give you a much broader range of communication. So this is a great radio to have during an evacuation situation. All right, so the next thing you're going to want to incorporate into your evacuation plan are rendezvous points or meetup places. And the reason this is important is because if your primary meetup location, which in most cases is going to be your home, ends up becoming compromised or inaccessible, the people that are in your family or in your group are going to need to know where they can go if they end up getting dispersed. So if SHTF happens and you're at work and your kids are at school and your wife's, out shopping, but everybody understands that the home is inaccessible, you're going to want to have secondary and even tertiary meetup points. So that way you guys can all meet in a safe place, assess the situation, and then move on to your bug out location from there. It's also a good idea to keep caches at these locations. That way, if you are completely without supplies, you can stock back up on the supplies that are in your cache and then move on to your bug out location. All right, so the last part of your evacuation plan is the means in which you are planning to evacuate in. So for most people, it's going to be their vehicle. Maybe you have an ATV or you plan on evacuating on a bicycle or on foot, but whatever it is, just make sure that that vehicle or that instrument is going to be in good working order. So if you plan on walking out on foot, make sure that you have a good pair of shoes, that you're in shape, and that you know you can walk for long distances. And if you have a vehicle, that's pretty much what my family and I are going to be evacuating in, is our vehicle. It's my responsibility to make sure that that vehicle is in good running order, the tires are in good condition, and all the fluids have been checked. And most importantly, that I have enough fuel on hand to get me from point A to my bug out location. So this is really important because if the situation is just really dire and the gas stations just become completely inaccessible, then you're going to want to make sure that you have enough fuel on hand to get you from point A to your bug out location without having to stop. So make sure that if you are bugging out in your bug out vehicle, that you have enough fuel on hand to get you to where you need to go. Okay, so once you have established your bug out location, you have a solid communication plan in place, and you have all of your rendezvous points predetermined, and everyone in your family or your team understands what to do and where to go if SHTF happens. The next thing you're going to want to consider doing is putting together some type of survival kit or a kit that's going to get you from point A to your bug out location. So usually what I suggest to people who are new to preparedness is just start out by putting together a basic EDC kit. Now, the reason why I usually suggest that is because an EDC kit is going to consist of items that you already have laying around your house. You don't need to go out and buy stuff. Now, this kit is actually in this bag by a company called Lockbee. They actually just sent this out to me. It's a beautiful bag. It's waxed canvas. It's got YKK zippers, but really handsome bag. Very good quality construction. So, but this is just a basic EDC kit that you can put together. So I actually keep this in my center console, and what I keep in here is just a Sharpie, a pen, a glow stick, a flashlight, and a little can of pepper spray. And then on the other side here, I keep an extra pair of readers. I have a Swiss Army knife, and I have a Right in the Rain pad. So that's pretty much a basic EDC. Now, if you want to step up your EDC, you can get into a bigger kit like this. This is actually the EDC kit that I keep with me. It's in a sling pack type bag. I did a review on this bag not too long ago, but basically what I keep in here is everything that I found myself robbing from my get home bag, which I also carry with me. But I keep a pair of sunglasses, there's some maps, I got a 32-ounce water bottle in here, I got a bunch of snacks in here, and then I basically keep a flashlight, a multi-tool, couple extra mags for my EDC pistol, which I also carry in this pack, which sits in the bag here. So this is pretty much my EDC. Now, depending on the local laws within your state, I would suggest getting into some means of defense. Now, whether that's just pepper spray for you, or you want to get into some type of defensive weapon like a handgun, just make sure that you are compliant with the laws in your state. But I definitely think that's like an important integral part of your EDC. Now, the next thing you want to consider getting after you put an EDC together is putting together a get home bag. Now, this bag could be just getting to your bug out location bag, but basically what I have in this kit here is everything that I would need to keep me alive for 3 days, or to get me from point A to point B. So I did a review on this bag not too long ago. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description for this, for that video, but it's basically got everything that I would need to get me to my bug out location. Now, if you don't want to go in the direction of a some type of bag, you can just put together a tote. Now, this is a tote that I put together for my family. You've all seen them. I think I got this one at Costco. But essentially what's in here is just the stuff that I keep for my kids. So I have 3 pre-packed bug out bags, kind of bug out bags. Really all that's in here is just a water bottle, a change of clothes, and like a whistle and things and some snacks. And that's pretty much what I keep in their bags. I also keep some wet wipes in this bag as well. And then the other items that I keep in here, and maybe this might be seen as kind of controversial, but these are AirTags. So this is a product by Apple. And what you do is you just link these to an app that's on your smartphone, and you can put these on your children and you can keep tabs on them. It will basically show you if they end up getting lost or dispersed from your party. You can go on the app and you can see exactly where they are. It's basically like a tracking device. So I don't keep these on my kids on a day-to-day basis, but if I am in a high threat situation and the chances of them getting lost are kind of high, I would put these on them, and that way, I don't have to worry about losing them in a high stakes situation. So great item to have. I actually have a bunch of these AirTags. I keep one in my wallet, so that way, I'm always losing my wallet and I can always locate it. So really cool product. The other thing you'll definitely want to put together and incorporate into your emergency plan is some type of first aid kit. So this is a basic first aid kit. I actually sell these on my Etsy store, but they have everything that you would need to handle, like a trauma type wound. So I have gauze in here. I got chem lights. I have some compression bandages, tourniquet, stuff like that. So pretty much everything that you would need to handle like a real bad wound. Now, if you have a big family and you think you might be getting into a lot of, accidents and injuries, you can put together a really extensive medical kit like this. I did a video, I think my last video was on this bag, but this is actually a bag that I would be putting into our vehicle if we were to evacuate, because it just has everything that we would need to handle any type of medical emergency. Other than that, I would say, if you don't want to do like a bug out bag thing, what you can do is just get a big duffel bag. Now, this is a duffel bag I actually got, and I really like this bag. I can't remember the name of the company. It's kind of a weird sounding company, but this bag will fit everything that you can need. And if, we end up in a situation where things are getting really intense and the probability of SHTF gets really high, usually what I'll do is I'll pack this full of a change of clothes and just keep it by my door. So a lot of times if I know that there's fires close by and maybe they're getting closer and I'm kind of like on call waiting to hear that we're going to have to evacuate, this is the bag that I'll actually fill up with a whole change of clothes for me and my wife for 3 or 4 days. But this is a great bag and a great option for those who just you don't want to get into a bug out bag. You can just get a duffel bag and fill it full of a change of clothes, and they got these side pockets that can keep survival related items. It's also got straps on here as well in case you do want to wear it as a backpack. But this is a great bag, and I've been tempted to actually just turn this into my bug out bag because it keeps so much stuff in it. But make sure to leave a link in the description for that. Now, I would say the last thing you'll want to consider making a part of your emergency plan is having a really good defensive type strategy. So that's usually going to consist of some type of weapon, and whether it's pepper spray or a handgun or a rifle, it's really up to you. You can also consider just getting some body armor for you and everybody on your team. That way, if the situation is really intense and it calls for it, you guys can just put some plate carriers on that have body armor and kind of stay protected that way. So that is pretty much well, not quite the last phase of this plan, but close to. So make sure that you have some type of survival kit that can get you from point A to your bug out location. All right, and for the final part of your emergency plan, and this is the one area where most people always fall short, and that is putting your emergency evacuation plan into motion. So run mock drills with your family or your team. What this is going to do is it's going to work out the flaws or the details that you may have missed. And it's just something you don't want to be discovering when you're actually putting the plan into a real life high stakes situation. So run the mock drills now and figure out what the flaws are and the holes are in your plan. Also, what this is going to do is it's going to get everybody really clear on every step of the plan, and it's just going to make for a much more coordinated and smoother transition when everybody is evacuating. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions for me or you would have done anything differently in this evacuation plan. Also, if you're interested in any of the gear that you saw in today's video, I'll make sure to leave links in the description. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to hit that notification bell. So with that said, until the next time, stay prepared.